How's it going, folks? So today I'm going to be talking about the new upcoming album from the band Severed Angel. The name of this album is Skyward. It's got 10 tracks on this bad boy, but before I get into the nitty gritty, you know the drill. So let's check out the cover. Boom, there it is. Take a look at that there. Really, really cool cover. I love this flying, like, archangel looking person, these wings and this magical staff, and looks like they're conjuring lightning in the background, and you see these clouds, and it looks like from where they're coming from it looks dark and ominous and evil almost, but where they're heading to it looks bright and hopeful and all of that good stuff. So there's that really nice what's the word I'm looking for, just that really nice difference, between the two. I can't think of the word exactly that I'm looking for, but that transition, or where you have the evil on the one side and then the good, hopeful, bright on the other. But yeah, it looks really neat. I love that character design of that character there, and the way Severed Angel is stylized at the top and skyward. Just looks really neat. I like the colors too. Really pleasing colors to look at, and the album kind of pops. So it looks neat. And, if you're at the record shop and you see this and you're like, this looks cool, does the cover properly convey the music contained within? It kind of looks like, if I saw this at the record shop and I'd never heard of this band, I would definitely think this is some straight up power metal, like some traditional power metal, which it's not. It's much more in the melodic metal vein than power metal. So if you got this, expecting power metal, it wouldn't quite be what you were looking for. But, I also don't think you'd be disappointed, because, there's some elements of power metal woven within, but it's much more at its core, I would say, a melodic metal album as opposed to a power metal album. So, someone might not get what they expect from the cover. So, there's that. But the cover itself, I think it looks really cool. It's really, really solid cover. But for the album itself, like I said, it's got 10 tracks on here. It's got a solid runtime where it doesn't overstay its welcome, but you also don't feel like you got gypped. So, yeah, with the 10 tracks on here, it's a nice full album where, like I said, you feel like you get your money's worth in all of that good stuff, without it just running on, or feeling like there's tracks that were just kind of slapped on there, just to kind of pad out the runtime. No, I mean, this feels like a solidly well put together album, with the runtime and all that. And like I said before, it really is at its core a melodic metal album. And that's really what you get with the sound. There's some variations as you go through the album and the style and the sound, but through and through, I would say it's definitely in the melodic metal vein, with a lot of kind of modern touches, modern elements and influences in there as well. But you get some nice heavy guitar work. I really like the guitar work on this album. That's kind of one of the highlights for me. There's some really, really great melodies. There's some nice liberties taken with the guitar where it doesn't just feel like it's just playing the bare bones basics and all of that, just some standard riffs and that's that. No, I mean, there's a lot of nice creativity in there. There's some really great rhythms, really great melodies, even where you have like the main riff playing, you have like another melody kind of going in the background. And this isn't all just reserved for like solos or things. There's some really, really nice stuff that you can hear happening behind some of the verses, behind some of the choruses, and all of that good stuff, aside from just being only in solos. So you get some really nice nuanced guitar work throughout this album. Really kind of helps drive the songs. And there's some killer solos and stuff, of course, but I find that the most satisfying guitar moments are those where you may not hear it on the first time, but second time hearing the song, you really hear these nice melodies happening in the background, amidst everything else that's happening. And it's a really, really cool way to keep the songs feeling fresh, and also adding depth to the song. So yeah, I thought the guitar work was definitely a highlight on this album. Another thing that I really thought was used well were the keyboards. I mean, the keyboards are just sprinkled in throughout, in different moments and things like that. But it's used to really enhance the sound of the songs and really add an extra flavor in there. And it just brings so much to the songs that, I can't overstate how well placed and how well executed the keyboard sections are. And the tones used and all of that. It really brings a lot to the sound. And really, like I said before, just really helps enhance some of the moments of the songs and just the album itself. So really well used and executed keyboards that I enjoyed thoroughly. And the musicianship in general is just really solid. It works well, and there's no moments where it's like, oh man, the musicianship is just really kind of lacking here. No, everything sounds good and everything is well played. The vocals do a solid job as well, carrying some of those melodies, and it's very melodic, especially in the choruses of this album. The verses are a little bit more direct, and might even have some edginess to it, but the choruses, when you really get that vocal melody, those memorable lines, the catchy hooks and all that good stuff that really helps engage the listener, and where you almost want to sing along with the chorus. And there's moments where it's kind of sweeping and grand, other moments where the melodies are a little bit more contained but memorable nonetheless. And the vocals do a solid job. Some of the higher notes, there's a handful of moments where the notes or whatnot get quite high, and I feel like those moments vocally could be a little bit stronger. It kind of thins out a little bit the higher it gets. So I love that approach. I love getting those high vocal notes and stuff. I do think they could be rounded out a bit more and just have a little bit of a stronger quality to them. But still, the vocals do a good job. And like I said, whether it's delivering the more direct vocals, verses, or the more melodic choruses, very well done. And there's some harsh vocals in this album as well. And those are done well also. They sound good, and they're not used too much. So when they're used, it helps emphasize moments or sections of songs without feeling like they're just thrown in for no good reason. It definitely feels like it belongs in the song, and they're used so sparingly that you don't get tired of them. It just helps enhance certain moments. And it's really cool too. In track 10, Citipati, sounds like there's some like female vocals in there as well, and it's a really cool addition to that song that really helps bring a new element to that song, and that's the final song on the album, so it really kind of rounds it all out nicely. It starts out with track 1, From the Inside, which is really kind of a heavy, atmospheric, kind of moody song. It's really kind of a neat way to kind of build up into the album itself. So I thought that was a really cool first track rather than going with just like an instrumental or something like that. It's a nice introduction to the album that sounds quite different from the rest of the album. So, I thought that was a neat way to start it out, and it sounds good. Then you get Live Your Imagination, which kind of, picks up into more of the sound that you'll hear on the rest of the album. But I will say, I do think that that's the weakest song on the album. That one, it just sounds a bit messy. It just doesn't quite land for me. Some of the melodies and the structure and the way the song was put together, it sounds a bit jumbled at times, and I just couldn't really get on board with that one. And speaking of getting on board with the album, it's kind of an interesting album where it took me subsequent listens, like the second and third listen, before I really was able to get to grips with the album itself and really kind of be able to, enjoy it more and more. The first time was kind of listening through and trying to get the hang of it, but the second time and third time was when it really kind of started sinking in the way that the album was constructed and the songs themselves and all of that. So it's kind of cool how each time you listen to the album, you kind of get more out of it. So that's always neat because it really encourages multiple listens as opposed to just like one listen, because you get more and more out of it the more that you listen to it. So, I would say also that the album, it really kind of starts to come into its own in the second half, starting with track 6, Move Through the Dark. The first half of the album, it has its ups and downs, in my opinion. It feels almost like, the band is still kind of trying to settle into what they're going for on the album. We're really trying to settle into the sound and the vibe of the album. And it's not until like track 6 through the end where it really, really feels like they found their groove. And that's where I would say is the heart of the album is in the second half. The first half still feels like they're just kind of working up to that. And like I said, track 2 is the weakest song in my opinion. I dig track 1 the way that it is. And then tracks 3 through 5, like I said, there's some ups and downs. There's some solid moments. There's some moments that, are a little bit more iffy, structure-wise or melody-wise. Things don't fully come together at times. But starting with track 6, it really, everything kind of falls into place. And that's really where the heart of the album is. So, I enjoyed the whole album, but that is when it really kind of takes off. That's where it really kind of soars. It feels like it kind of stumbles a little bit in the first half of the album with the songwriting and just the execution and all of that good stuff. But the second half is really where I feel like is the heart and soul of the album. Track 6, like I said, Move Through the Dark, is really solid. It's kind of the beginning of the meat of the album. Track 7, Tyrant on the Throne, is a really nice melodic kind of epic where it's got a lot of different movements throughout and the structure, and it's really engaging to the listener. Track 9, Tranquility and Conflict, in my opinion, is the highlight of the album. That was my favorite song on the album. It's got a really, really nice melody, and it kind of captures you. It really kind of it hooked its teeth, sank its teeth in me, and really kind of pulled me in. And I really enjoyed the way that song was put together, and the melody. It's just got such a nice sound. And highlight for me. And the track 10, Citipati, is a really cool way to end the album. It's got a little bit of an epic feel to it. And like I said, with some female vocals thrown in for good measure, solid melodies, and it feels like a natural end point for the album, and it's just really well done. So all in all, like I said, the keyboards, I loved how the keyboards were used here, just brilliantly well done with the keyboards, really enhancing a lot of the songs. The guitar work also has some really, really awesome riffs and melodies woven throughout, as opposed to just being, strictly kind of highlighted in the solo section. So that's a lot of fun. And yeah, I mean, it's a solid album. It definitely leaves room for improvement, which is cool, but it feels like the band, even just in this album alone, it feels like they're getting more and more comfortable with their sound and with their songwriting. And that's just even evident on this album itself. It stumbles a bit in the first half, kind of trying to find its footing, and, some ups and downs. But the second half of the album is really, that's when it hits its stride and it really shows what the band is really capable of. So if you're strictly a power metal fan, looking for power metal, this is not that. Definitely more in the melodic metal vein with a lot of modern influence, but also their own character and own personality thrown in for good measure. So if you're a fan of melodic metal, even power metal too, I mean, I definitely think there's a lot that you will like here, but don't expect just a traditional power metal album because it is not that. But any fans of melodic metal, yeah, there's a lot to enjoy here, and I think it's a really great time to jump in and start listening to this band because they're just going to keep getting better and better. And I really think this is a great stepping stone for the future, and I look forward to what the band continues to create as they evolve. So now's the time to get on board and check out this album. So yeah, that's what I got to say about that. That's Severed Angel with their new album Skyward coming out this Friday, May 3rd. Let me know, folks, in the comments down below. What do you think of the singles released so far? Are you looking forward to this album? And once you listen to the album, come back here and let me know your thoughts. But yeah, that's what I got to say about that. So thank you all so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you all next time. Ranger out.